We're going to show taking that clock dial file and cutting it on a plasma. I saved the file as a PLT file. The plasma software loads in the PLT file, and we then created the toolpath for all the cuts. You can see some of the lead-in cuts there. He uses a lead-in cut so it won't damage the finished cut on the edges. I always marvel at plasma cutting because you're cutting steel. A lot different from wood or CO2 laser. It's getting close to being completed, so on the final cut it'll do the outside circumference of the clock dial, and then we're done. I was surprised the amount of time it took us to clean up the backside of that steel, like 10 minutes. Possibly a bit of sanding and then a paint job. I cleaned up the metal, gave it a quick sanding, and then gave it a couple of coats of silver. We're now going to design a cedar frame to go around that clock dial. Use Vectric Aspire 9.5 to do the design and the toolpath for the cedar frame to go around the metal dial. What's unique here is the size of this project. Ended up that the wood was 49 by 49, pretty well the full size of the width of my table. I fastened it to my slave table using 2.5-inch screws, probably about 7 or 8 screws. I was a bit nervous about the cut, so that's why you can see where I drew pencil lines on there just to make sure that I was going to be cutting in the right spot. I used a 60-degree bit running at about 21,000 RPM at about 100 inches per minute. A quick note here, these videos are all sped up because they take forever. The first toolpath just took the meat out of the letters. The second toolpath cleaned up the letters and made the final cut. You can see here this is the final toolpath on the letters. That second toolpath really spends the time on making up the letters perfect. Now we're ready to cut the inner circle and the outer circle using a 1/4-inch end mill, and I also tabbed it. I had 4 tabs just to make sure that the piece didn't move. The tabs were also 3/8 by 3/8 because I wanted that to stay put. This is a mock-up photo of the frame and the metal dial inside. I'm showing here that I took that file that we drew up and made it a DXF and cut it on the CO2 laser. So in conclusion, we've digitized a small diagram, made it full size for a large clock dial, and I also cut it on the CO2 laser. This was a good project, but heavy to handle.